Welcome to The Explainer. We're diving straight into a fascinating forensic examination today. We're going to take a single, seemingly simple piece of digital sports lore and totally deconstruct it. We aren't just looking at this as some fleeting post you scroll past on your phone. No, we're treating it as a digital artifact, a literal piece of evidence that tells a massive story about how we consume sports, how we argue, and how internet culture just absolutely amplifies human emotion. So buckle up because we're putting this whole thing under the microscope.
But hey, before we reveal today's core piece of evidence, I want you to think about something for a second. What exactly makes a sports loss a robbery? If you're a sports fan, you know exactly the feeling I'm talking about. Your team doesn't just lose, they have victory ripped away from them by some nefarious outside force, right? A terrible referee call, maybe a controversial rule change, or a totally phantom foul. The word robbery gets thrown around all the time in sports debates, and it implies a victim, a perpetrator, and this really profound sense of injustice. Keep that intense, burning feeling in the back of your mind, because it's the absolute driving force behind the mystery we're unpacking today.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our subject. Take a really good look at this image. It's a screenshot of a social media status update. Looks like it's from a messaging app like WhatsApp. And this is going to be our mystery box for the entire explainer. Now, what strikes you first? For me, it's got to be that incredibly stark, aggressive magenta aesthetic. It is bright, it is loud, and sitting smack in the middle is this massive, completely context-free claim. There are zero links to articles, no video replays to analyze, absolutely no stats. It's just pure, unadulterated assertion painted on a giant neon canvas.
Section 1. The boldest claim, deconstructing the statement.
To really get how a post like this plays tricks on our psychology, we've got to look super closely at the actual words they chose. In the lightning-fast world of social media, literally every single keystroke matters. Let's isolate that very first line to just focus purely on the sheer audacity and scale of what's being claimed here. Read that to yourself. The biggest robbery in the World Cup history. The author isn't just saying someone had a bad game, they're not saying a minor mistake happened. They are dropping a definitive, absolute statement about the entirety of the sport's history. By calling it the biggest, they're instantly trying to shut down all other debates, practically planting a flag at the absolute peak of the mountain of sports grievances.
Let's zoom in even closer on that specific phrase, biggest robbery. What's so fascinating here is how those two words immediately inject so much drama and extreme subjectivity into the mix. I mean, a robbery in a legal sense involves actual theft by force, right? But here, it's being weaponized as a metaphor. The author absolutely is not inviting a calm, rational discussion about offside rules or penalty kicks. By framing it as a robbery, they're turning a sporting event into a literal crime scene, which instantly cranks up the emotional temperature of anyone reading it.
Section 2. Defining a sports robbery. The language of fandom.
This actually brings us to a super fascinating cultural phenomenon. To wrap our heads around this kind of language, we kind of have to officially define our terms. In the wild world of sports fandom, a robbery is this passionately perceived, undeniable injustice regarding how a game ended. Obviously, it's not a literal crime, but to the diehard fan, it sure feels like one. The author of our Magenta post is leaning so heavily into this hyperbole. They're framing whatever match they're talking about not just as a bummer of a loss, but as an absolute historical crime against fairness itself. It's a highly effective little narrative trick to instantly build sympathy or just straight up provoke outrage.
Now check out the grammatical mechanics of how this history is actually being recorded. Notice the specific capitalization here. We've got a lowercase w for world, but an uppercase C for cup and an uppercase H for history. Now, you might think, okay, just a minor typo, but in digital forensics, this is a massive clue. It perfectly illustrates the sheer speed and raw emotion of casual, rapid-fire internet typing. The author was probably typing so furiously, so passionately, that standard grammar rules just totally went out the window. And yet, this hastily typed message is trying to immortalize a permanent, earth-shattering claim about global sports. The contrast between that sloppy typing and the monumental scale of the claim is pretty wild.
Section 3. The matchup, Egypt versus Argentina.
So who exactly are the victims and the perpetrators in this grand historical crime? Right here, we have the two nations visually weighed against each other, Egypt versus Argentina. Look at how this is formatted. Using all caps there, that's entirely deliberate. In internet speak, we all know all caps means you are shouting. The author is practically screaming these names through the screen at you. It sets up an immediate, titanic clash.
We don't just have two teams anymore. We have two entire nations positioned on opposite sides of this historical injustice. But I really want you to ask yourself why use this exact phrasing. Notice what is completely missing from this post. There's no year provided, no final score, no specific players mentioned, nothing about the referee, zero details of the alleged robbery itself. Nothing. By stripping away all the actual factual context, the author leaves us with nothing but the pure mythic clash of two nations. It basically forces your brain to do all the heavy lifting, right? You either have to frantically search your memory banks for this specific match, or you just simply accept the sheer grandiosity of the claim at face value. Looking at the whole picture again, you can see exactly how this complete lack of context is a deliberate tactic. It's meant to force an emotional reaction. When you're just casually scrolling through your phone and this blinding image hits your retinas, you literally don't have time to fact-check it. You're backed into a corner. You either nod your head in immediate agreement because you share the author's grievance, or you're just so baffled by the audacity of it that you instantly demand answers. Either way, the author has successfully captured your total attention using absolutely zero evidence. It's kind of brilliant.
Section 4. The digital medium, where claims live.
All right, we've analyzed the text, but let's remember that text doesn't exist in a vacuum. It's time to shift gears and look at the environment surrounding it, because the medium is honestly just as important as the message when we're talking about viral claims. We absolutely cannot ignore that bright, inescapable magenta canvas. In social media design, backgrounds like this aren't just there to look pretty, they are highly functional. This solid, blindingly bright color acts like a massive visual megaphone. By ditching photos, videos, or complex patterns, there's zero visual distraction. Your eyes literally have nowhere else to go but straight to those white letters. The medium itself is custom-built to amplify the aggressive confidence of the statement.
Now, if you focus down on the user interface bar at the bottom, you'll see a literal menu of pre-packaged extreme digital emotions. If you want to reply to this massive claim about world history, what are your options? Well, you can send a hard eyes emoji, a laughing crying emoji, a shocked face, or you can just smash a big heart button. That's it. The platform fundamentally restricts how you can react. Notice there's no button for, I require a bit more nuance here, or, hey, can you cite your sources? Nope. The interface practically demands that you react with the exact same level of extreme hyperbole that the original post used. And this all builds into a very real behavioral trap. Let's walk through the mechanical steps of how you as a viewer are meant to interact with this specific piece of media. Step 1. You confront the bold, totally context-free claims staring back at you. Step 2. Because there's no room for nuance, you experience an immediate, polarized emotional reaction. Maybe it's anger, agreement, or just pure shock. And Step 3. You tap one of those extreme emojis to instantly validate and engage with the claim. This flow just proves that the digital medium itself, the blinding color, the lack of space for nuance, the emoji reactions, it all actively fuels and rewards hyperbole. It's basically a machine perfectly designed to turn subjective opinions into undeniable digital facts.
Which brings us to the end of our forensic investigation and leaves us with a pretty massive question to chew on. After breaking down the text, the language of fandom, and the psychological mechanics of the digital interface, I really have to ask you, is sports history actually written by undeniable facts and cold, hard statistics? Or, in today's digital world, is it being written by undeniable, fiery passion broadcast on a glowing magenta screen? Next time you see a massive claim scrolling past your thumb, I hope you remember this explainer. Pause for just a second and ask yourself exactly how that post is trying to make you feel. Thanks so much for diving into this with me, and remember, always keep questioning the context.